وتصبح الذكرى صورنا.
All right, we are back, brothers and sisters, and getting right back into it. As I mentioned, we are on a very interesting and important chat with our brother Abu Zubair Shadid Muhammad of the United Muslim Masjid in Philadelphia. And he is working hard, so I don't have to, I can direct this question to him. Of course, as we know, other imams, they get these cush contracts. And I've seen, some masjid where the imam is impeachable, and so they are very, very comfortable in their position, and it causes them really not to act. So what is the imam's role in recharging the community and making sure that the community is a place of activity and action?
Well, first, I think that the imam has to realize that his position is a position of responsibility. Right? And after understanding that there's responsibility, then you must understand that there's accountability. Accountability with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not necessarily accountability with the board, or you may not get paid this week, or, accountability with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that these are Allah's slaves that you are responsible for. All right? And the Prophet ﷺ said that there are 7 people that will be shaded with the shade of Allah on the day where there will be no shade except the shade of Allah. And the first of those people, he said, Al-Imam al-Adil, the Imam that is just. And the scholars explain that an Imam that is just, it covers a lot of things, but one of the things it covers is that a person assumes a position of authority over some of the Muslims, and he's qualified to fulfill that position. And his qualifications are 2. Number 1 is to be qawi, is to be strong and have the physical capability or wherewithal to fulfill the rights of that position. And number 2, al-amin, to be trustworthy, someone reliable.
Yes.
And this is evidenced by an ayat in the Quran, 2 ayats actually in the Quran, where the woman who Musa gave her and her sister their camels or their cattle something to drink, and they went back and they told their fathers to hire Musa, and they said, إِنَّمَا خَيْرٌ مِنْ اسْتَأْجَرْتَهُ الْقَوِيُّ الْأَمِينُ. They said that the best one that you could hire is someone who is qawi, who is strong, and amin, and trustworthy.
Wow.
So those 2 qualities are very, very important when it comes to assuming leadership position. And so he should understand that there's a responsibility that comes along with that position. It's not just a title, imam. It's not just a title, because what the imam is doing for the community, there are a lot of other people in the community that do the same exact thing that the imam does.
Right.
They work for the community. It's just that as the imam, you have a title, and the regular people in the community don't have a title, but they're doing the exact same work that you're doing. But you have a greater responsibility because you took that position. And Allah and the Prophet ﷺ said, "Kullukum ra'in wa kullukum mas'ulun an ra'iyati." All of you are shepherds, and all of you will be questioned about your flock, how you handle that. Secondly, is that the imam, he has to identify what his goals and his objectives are as the leader of the community. You can't just go into something haphazardly. You have to go into it with both eyes on the prize. You have to lay down some objectives, long-term goals, short-term goals, where you want to see the community. If your contract is for a year, which is the normal term of a contract, if your contract is for a year, then okay, 6 months into your contract, which should be your short-term goal, you expect the community to be here. And a year, once your contract is finished, if you don't plan on renewing it, then that'll be your long-term goal, and you expect the community to be here at the end of that. And so you have to lay down some objectives for yourself. And the primary objective for any imam or any leader of any community is to see the people excel, to see the Muslims excel and do better than what they were doing when you became the imam. If you're the imam of a community for 5 years, 6 years, and the community is still the same, there's no productivity for you by which we can gauge the effectiveness of your leadership, then what's the point? We have to be able, and I think that that's one of the things that we're lacking in as communities in America. There's no way to gauge the effectiveness of the imam.
There's no expectations. There's no expectations whatsoever. Yeah.
Exactly. So you'll find the imam, he's the imam of this community, and then he's hired at that community solely based upon his name.
Yes.
Not based upon the productivity, what he's producing. No one is being hired because he was the imam of this community and look at what he produced. They have institution, they have schools, they have after-school programs that the children are excelling in academically as well as secularly. No one is being hired for that, nor is that a part of the criteria for a person to be hired. We're not hiring imams because, you know, his reputation carries a lot of weight. Every community he goes to, he tends to raise that community to a certain level, okay? So I think that there has to be some evaluation going on from a higher standpoint to evaluate this imam. And, you know, imams of communities should be given, one of the things I respect about the community that I became the imam of is that they want an annual report from me as the imam.
Wow.
They want a monthly report from me on the classes that I'm giving, how many people are attending the classes. Do I see the classes excelling? Do I see the people getting better? Do I see the people getting worse? They want a monthly report from me as the imam so that they can gauge the effectiveness of my work ethic, and to determine whether this is someone that we want to renew his contract or not.
Wow, that's
and I think that that's important. That is that, and it really, I was really taken aback, and I was surprised, and I developed a lot of respect for their professionalism. And another thing, the last point I wanted to make is that, you know, as an imam of a community, you have to realize that you don't have the answers to everything. I don't care how knowledgeable you think you are. You don't have the answers to everything. So what that means is that you have to begin to utilize brothers and sisters in your community that are strong in areas that you're weak in. And I think a lot of times, many imams, they assume this position of being an imam, and they kind of shut everybody else out because they figure, well, you don't have enough Islamic knowledge, so, you know, these matters are above your head. But then there's some things that, okay, a person may not have a lot of Quran and Sunnah textual evidences for, but they may have the life experience. They may have, you know, secular knowledge that may be, for example, you have many brothers and sisters that have a lot of marital problems in the community. Okay, and if you are young and inexperienced imam as it relates to that aspect of life of marriage, if you're an imam 35, 40 years old and you haven't been married or you can't keep a wife or, you know, for whatever reason, then of course in that area you may not be the best person to handle that. So you look out into your people in the community and you may know a brother or a sister who may have experience in that field. You bring them in to assist you. Okay, if you're not good with finances, if a brother comes to you and says, hey, listen, a whole year has passed on my wealth, I want to pay zakat. Tell me how I go about doing that. And I can almost guarantee you that a large percentage of the imams in America right now cannot answer that question.
Right.
How do I go about calculating how much to subtract? What do I do with it? Do I give it to you? Do I give it to the Masjid? Who do I give it to? Okay, you might not be good with finances. You might not be good with calculating money. So you bring someone else in who has that type of skill, who has those type of qualifications to assist you in that.
Right.
So understanding that you're not going to have the answers to everything, and to utilize the brothers and sisters in your community to assist you.
Unbelievable. And I think another thing that kind of discourages, and you're hitting all of my spots, so just I'm gonna get you on a roll while I got you. I don't want to beleaguer this issue because we've got a lot more to explore before we let you go, but in terms of, there's some people kind of get discouraged because of the way that the administration is run, that the imam becomes almost like a gangster. You know, it's like, you know, it's a Imam al-Gaboni, you know, where he gets his henchmen around, and no matter what is going on in the community, even if he's living foul, you can't address the situation. You know, he can't be dealt with, this and that and the other. So the people just end up giving up. And, you know, the minbar can be used for this kind of junk. And I think that's also an important issue. I know you may have seen it before.
As a matter of fact, when I was hired to be the imam of this particular community, I met with the head of the administration first, and then I met with all of the board members. One of the questions that one of the brothers on the board, he asked me, he said, Brother Shadid, I want to ask you a question. If there's a conflict between yourself and someone on the board, just an honest act, just an honest question. Is that going to be like one of your khutbahs? Like, are you going to do a khutbah on now on the board, or because what he's doing is he's basing that off of what is the norm with many brothers.
Yes.
They utilize the minbar as their platform to bash out anyone that they have any personal issues with.
Right.
Personal issues. And the minbar is not to be used like that. The minbar is to be used in the manner in which the Prophet ﷺ used the minbar, and that is to remind the Muslims of their responsibility to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to remind them of paradise, to remind them of the hellfire. One of the companions, he said to the Prophet ﷺ, I have become a hypocrite. Alhamdulillah. And the Prophet ﷺ asked him, well, why do you say this about yourself? He said, because when we're with you, you remind us of paradise. You remind us of the hellfire as if we see it with our own eyes. And then when we go home to our families, we forget a lot of what you say to us. Okay? My point behind that, point of reference here, is that he said, when we're with you, you remind us of the paradise. You remind us of the hellfire as if we see it with our own eyes. And this is what the minbar is used for. Not used for your political agenda, not used for your personal agenda, not used as a means, as your mallet for bashing everybody over the head that doesn't agree with you.
Oh,
that
man.
is not, when you take a brother or a sister who works on a day-to-day basis, 8 hours a day, they're surrounded by, in whatever environments they work in, from the best of them to the worst of them. At the end of the day, there are environments, if they're not Islamic environments, they're environments at the end of the day that take them away from the remembrance of Allah. So when they come to the Masjid on Jumu'ah, which is probably, for most brothers and sisters, is probably the only time that they actually get a chance to just sit down and hear a message about Islam,
Right.
about their religion. I don't want to, go to work, spend 40 hours a week and then come on Friday and, my first time to sit in the Masjid during the whole week, and I got to hear about, what's going on between you and another individual. I want to hear what my Lord has commanded me to do. I want to hear what Allah has promised me, so I have something to look forward to. I want to hear what Allah has threatened with, so I know what to stay away from. That's what the minbar is used. And like you said, that it has become a trend amongst many communities that the Imam has become like the end-all be-all. He's like the Imam of the Muslims, and everything, goes through his hands, and, if he doesn't agree with this or that, then it's a problem, and then he has his entourage, the board becomes like his entourage, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, literally in fear of him.
Yeah.
And I mean, and it's unfair to the community members because, as you mentioned, there's no justice, and there's no one to come in and say, and to quell the situation and say, hey, listen, there's no accountability, there's no one to answer to, and it's just like, many of us just have to be patient until Yawm al-Qiyamah and get our rights back from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Allahumma musta'an. Allahumma musta'an. Well, brother, I want to, keep on going because, and I want to keep my talk short, but in terms of opening interaction with the larger community here in America, we've suffered some real big setbacks. We've had some imams of large masajid who have later on been accused of aiding and abetting some of the biggest criminals in the world today, and have become spokesmen for extremist groups and so on and so forth. And they've been formerly imams of masajid. So I think now is long overdue that we begin to communicate with the broader community and open up our situation and not be isolated. How do you recommend that we prevent isolation of the Muslim communities? What should our role in the masjids be? One of our activities to make us more active in opening ourselves up to the broader community in America.
I think that this is a big problem in many of the Islamic communities in America, where the Islamic community operates as a separate entity, as almost like a secret society inside of a society that is already running.
Right.
Okay, as Muslims, we are not a secret society. As Muslims, we are a religious institution established to teach and educate the Muslims about their religion. Okay, that's what we are. We are a religious institution, we provide an environment in which the Muslims can learn their religion. That's it. And as a community within a community, I think we have shared interests. From those shared interests is we want safety of our community. We want our sisters to be able to come in and out of the masjid without being in fear of their lives, without being hit by a stray bullet, without being hit by a stolen car, without anything happening to them. Okay, we want a safe environment, and I think that's a shared interest. That's something that, as well as Christians and Jews and any other religious group in our communities, they want the same thing.
That's right.
Okay, so we have shared interests. We also want properties in our community. We want to build businesses for our community. That's a shared interest that, regardless of the belief system of any group or any religious group, we all have those shared interests, and those things exist in the community. In Philadelphia, you have many masjids, you have many churches, synagogues, you have Muslims that own businesses, you have Christians that own businesses. Okay, so there's shared interests that we have, and Islam doesn't prohibit us from working with these other groups for the purpose of those shared interests. These are not religious interests, although they do have a place in our religion.
Right.
Our religion, Islam, teaches us to highly encourage self-preservation, to preserve ourselves. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَخُذُوا حِذْرَكُمْ, take your precautions to preserve ourselves and to preserve the lives of others. He said that in the Quran, وَمَنْ أَحْيَاهَا فَكَأَنَّمَا أَحْيَا النَّاسَ جَمِيعًا. That if a person saves the life, it's as if you saved all of mankind. So we highly emphasize that. In ridding our community of a criminal activity and things like this. Those are shared interests that we all have. And Islam doesn't prohibit. I mean, even as it relates to, going down to, like, you have these faith-based initiatives that the mayor or the governor or from the government, that they have these AIDS awareness and things like this. These are our interests that we have. Right. We don't want AIDS in our community. All right, so to bring someone in and to educate us about AIDS awareness, or to send a Muslim out to learn about that and bring him back into the community where he can or she can educate the community to that, those are shared interests that we have. I think that we have to learn how to make a distinction between what is actually part of the religious aspect of the religion that we don't make any compromises with, and that shared interests that we have that are not so much religiously based, but are just what they call maslaha amma, which is just a general benefit for everybody. General benefit for everybody. And the Muslims, we are just as much responsible for that as anyone else in the community.
That's
so
exactly right.
We can't operate as a separate entity. We don't want anything to do. So if crime is going on in our neighborhood, okay, you have many masjids that are located, unfortunately, inadvertently, because this is what many of the masjids can afford. They exist in high crime areas in big cities, Philadelphia being one of them, North New Jersey being one of them, and other parts of New York. You have masjids that are located, unfortunately, in high crime areas. Are you telling me that as Muslims, that if there are stolen cars coming through the area where the masjid is, or there's shootings going on, and there's robbings, and there's Bloods and Crips and things like this going on in those communities, that doesn't concern us? We don't have anything to do with that? No, we have everything to do that, because unfortunately, many of those crimes are perpetrated by many of our children, unfortunately. If you want to be for real about it, many of those crimes are perpetrated by many of our children, Muslim children, unfortunately. So yes, we have just as much responsibility for those to maintain those shared interests as any other community. And just because we're hand in hand working along with people from other faiths to make sure that these shared interests are perpetuated and taken care of, that doesn't mean that, okay, now get the label over you, now you're working with the Christians, or you're working with the Jews, or you're working with the people of Bid'ah. You're not working with them at the end of the day. You're working with them only under one agenda, and that is the general benefit for everybody.
Right.
And it's not like you're working with them, you're sharing with them in their aqidah and their belief, or you're sharing with them in some of their deviant practices. No.
Right. You don't have to. You don't have to actually become the other faith in order to do this. I understand.
Absolutely.
I've got about 40 seconds left. Is the Ahl Sunnah community in America maturing? And if not, what is necessary for that to happen?
I can't speak for the community in general. I've been to many communities throughout America. I I can't say in general that everybody, but what I can say for the communities that I know of personally, more so here on the East Coast, I would say the maturity level is at an all-time low. It is. You would think, as I've been involved in the communities and giving dawah and traveling around for about 10 years now. And in my 10 years of traveling around, I mean, you see individuals. If I had to speak on an individual basis, yes, I do know individual brothers and sisters who have come a long way. Come a long way. There are communities as a whole that I see that are very stagnant, very immature. I mean, something as basic as, being able to go into a community that may not be upon the Sunnah per se, because we can't just label the whole community as a masjid as a masjid. People go there and pray. I can't say this whole masjid here is astray, or everybody that prays in there is astray, because you have some people that pray there that may live in the area and be from Ahlul Sunnah, and they may be upon what is correct, but they pray there because it's a masjid at the end of the day. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَإِنَّ الْمَسَاجِدَ لِلَّهِ, and the masjids are for Allah. So a person can pray. I mean, if we use that same standard, then okay, is the Prophet's masjid in Medina, is that a Sunnah masjid or a Salafi masjid? Because you have Shiites that pray there, you have Sufis that pray there. You have people from other denominations in the religion of Islam that pray there.
Right.
So are we going to label that as a non-Salafi masjid? That's not the criterion by which we say a masjid is upon the truth or not upon the truth. Okay, so I can't say in general that this masjid is not upon the truth, but we are still immature to the point that a person who we know is on the truth, we know he's Salafi, we know he's upon the haq, he can go into a non-Ahlul Sunnah masjid, and there will be a question mark over his head because he's trying to go in there and teach these people Islam.
Yeah.
When
and how are they going to learn if nobody goes to teach them? Yeah,
and does it make sense? It would seem like we're actually defeating the purpose if we go and learn Islam and bring it back to the people that already have the truth.
Yeah.
I mean, what is the benefit?
Yeah, it's annoying, but I'm very happy and honored to sit with level-headed brothers like you who have our best interests at heart.